Hey everyone, Eric from EK Endurance Coaching here again. Today on the EK Minute, I am going to attempt to talk about, in a timely manner, how long our long workout should be. Ride or run, either one doesn't really matter. And I'm going to go through some points, hopefully to boil this down so that you can make a better decision on how this should be done, how long it should be. Talk about these four main things. The glare isn't too bad. I think you can see that. And I'm going to go into these a little bit, but I'll do my best to consolidate this. This is really, I could go on and talk about this for an hour, really. There's a lot of caveats and nuance to this, and so I will kind of skip over probably some of that, but bear with me. Hopefully this will be helpful. So one of the big things, probably the most important thing, is it's about you. It's not about your race. This is probably the biggest mistake I see that athletes do, especially the longer the event, is they try to mimic their event in training and they try to go longer and longer and longer, and it usually very quickly becomes more of a detriment than it is helpful. So, number one, it's about you. It's about not necessarily the race you're doing, but it's more about you. That's a scary concept. It's not super sexy to think about training wise, but those are the facts. Number two, when it does come to you, it's about what you can absorb. This is why number one is. It's about what you can handle and what you can absorb. Number three, I'm going to talk a little bit about repeatability. Everyone knows that one workout isn't going to make or break your race. It's about the accumulation of all your training. Yet we often get away from that and focus on doing these one big session or these big sexy workouts instead of trying to grind away at what's repeatable and really sustainable for the athlete. And then I'm going to give you some real world kind of perceived exertion cues that you can go by that will help you distinguish whether that long workout was too long or not long enough. A little bit of science and then a little bit of kind of just some real world perceived exertion things that you can go by to decide whether or not you're in the right ballpark. So number one and number two we can talk about together because they're very interconnected. So it's not about the race; it's about you. And we get this all the time. Coaches get this all the time. I certainly do. Hey, Eric, I'm doing an Ironman. How long should my long ride be? Hey, Eric, I'm doing this gravel race. I'm doing the Leadville 100 mountain bike race. How long should my long ride be? Um, so, first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're thinking about our long ride in terms of what we're doing all the time. That comes up in number three. Um, not we're building to this one long workout. Any kind of formulas or calculations that you see, I've seen a bunch of these. Oh, if you're doing this distance race, then you need to do A, B, and C, and this is your long workout. Throw that stuff out. Reason is because all of that works off of the race and not you, the athlete. So another way to think about this is, like I say, it is about you, not about the race. And the reason is because everyone can handle and, more importantly, actually absorb different amounts of workload when it comes to the long workout. The analogy I always make is people say, I don't have enough time to train for this distance race, so I'm going to do the shorter one. I don't have enough time to train for an Ironman, so I'm just going to do short course. Well, I know, World Cup athletes and Olympic athletes who are doing a race that's less than 2 hours, and they're training 20, 30 hours a week. So does it really matter about your race? No. It matters about your goals in the race, and it matters what you're actually able to handle. So different people can handle and absorb certain things. If you're a new athlete, you're very new to the bike, a 2-hour bike ride might be your longest workout. If you're a professional, then, and even not a professional, if you're a seasoned athlete, if you're a seasoned cyclist, especially a seasoned runner, that long run can be much, much longer and done very frequently. I've had amateur athletes who are doing Ironman distance triathlons, and we're doing 4 to 5 hour long rides very, very frequently. Maybe not every weekend, but almost every weekend. And they were able to handle that absorb that, and continue on with the rest of their training. So you really need to think about what's reasonable for you. What have you done in the past? What's your background? And then a few of these other metrics that I'm going to talk about here will also help you figure out what you can actually handle and absorb. So number 3 on our list, repeatability. You can think about this in a couple of ways. Can you do this long workout on a regular basis? So when we think about the long workout, it could be every week. Doesn't necessarily have to be every week. There's plenty of reasons that you would do your long workout every week. There's plenty of reasons why you would not do it every week. I'm not here to discuss or debate that. That depends on your training schedule, what you and your coach have kind of worked out. But it needs to be done in a repeatable fashion. You can't just do 1 or 2 of these long sessions and really get a lot out of them from a training benefit. Now, again, a lot of these caveats we've talked about, and I've heard other people talk about, doing the really long workout, the workout that's so long that it probably is not beneficial to your training. However, you do get experience from doing that really long workout. You get to, I was listening to a podcast, and what they described it as, you get to practice your craft, which I really liked. You're going to experience things on that 6-hour bike ride that you don't experience on the 3 or 4-hour bike ride. You're going to experience things on the 5-6 hour trail run that you don't on the 2 or 3 hour trail run. So there are reasons to do those big, long workouts that might be a little bit overwhelming. However, on the physical scale, on the training adaptation scale, we want to think about what we can do in a repeatable nature. That's weekly. The other part of the repeatability here is our what's it doing to the rest of our training? This is another mistake I see people make a lot. If you're doing this long workout on the weekend, what happens to you for maybe the next day if you're training the next day, or the following week? We typically have long workouts on the weekend. What's happening to you and your training the following week? Are you able to hit your key sessions? Are you able to execute your maybe higher intensity workouts, intervals appropriately, or not? So again, remember, we do have down weeks, rest weeks, deload weeks, whatever you want to call them. And yes, those should be in there. But is this long ride eating into other training sessions, short, easy training sessions, which are very important, or your hard interval training sessions? Are you able to execute these? And then, of course, hopefully we're not getting any kind of overtraining symptoms. Bad performance, sickness, injury at worst. So things to think about, again, when doing this long workout. I know that your Ironman bike is 5 or 6 hours, but if you can only handle 3, you'll build up. You'll be able to handle more as we go, but you don't need to progress this long workout every single week. It's okay to progress up to a point of your long workout, again, bike or run, and keep doing that distance over and over and over again. You will get a lot out of that. You don't need to keep going longer. You don't need to keep adding more and more and more to your training to get something out of it. Cardiac drift. I'm going to talk to you quickly about some cardiac drift stuff. I'll try to show you a couple of diagrams here, and we can use a little bit of the science stuff to indicate whether your long ride is long enough. This as well. This is from Steven Seiler, and this is a ride from his, and he was talking about how there's no true physiological steady state, which he's talked about before. This is also a reason why I kind of tell people that you don't need to do your intervals inside, because even if you do ride at the exact same wattage for your 20-minute threshold interval or whatever you're doing, that's great, but your body doesn't respond like that, even though you're at the same power output. The physiological response and stress signaling of your body is varying that whole time. So you don't really, that's kind of a different topic, but you don't really have that steady state. So This shows some cardiac drift. This green line is heart rate, and this red line is heart rate. He's showing here how over time, you can see one is December, one is May, he became quote unquote more fit because for the same steady wattage of 205 watts, he did this on a indoor trainer here, obviously. So at a nice steady wattage, he was able to show his heart rate not reacting as much and staying lower for the same power output. However, we still see this rise in heart rate in both of these rides. And this is what I want to talk about. Is cardiac drift bad? How much is bad? How much is good? How much is appropriate? I think for the people that are now looking at things like cardiac drift, Training Peaks calls it decoupling, I think. It's sought as this bad thing, this data shown with comparison to wattage and heart rate, where shows that you are not as fit as someone that did not have cardiac drift. Now, this may be true. However, I think what we want to kind of analyze and think about, and this is going to be different for everyone, is how much cardiac drift is too much and how much cardiac drift is enough. So if you were getting this higher perceived exertion and a higher heart rate for a relatively steady, long ride, long workout, that is that's showing you that your body is having to work harder and harder to maintain the same output. All right, this is from fatigue. Now, we do need to consider more of these caveats as I talked about. We do need to consider your fueling, your hydration, the weather conditions, your terrain, all of that kind of stuff. This is going to affect heart rate, of course, is going to affect your perceived exertion and how things get harder. But there is this thing just called fatigue. And as we go longer and longer, it takes more and more work from our body to keep producing the same output. So there's implications for this in our training. There's applications for managing this in a race, which I won't get into. But what I think is important to think about and to discuss with your coach or yourself or training partner or whoever is cardiac drift is not a bad thing. And in fact, I would like to see a little bit of cardiac drift towards the end of long rides, which is simply showing that this is a training stimulus that is causing our body to have to work harder. It's signaling our body that we need to be able to resist fatigue and all the other things that go along with it. We need to be able to do this better. Your body will get this signal and will adapt. It will adapt those key aspects that we talk about all the time with long distance training, with zone 2 training, like fat metabolism, capillary growth, stroke volume, all that kind of stuff. So is it okay to see some of this cardiac drift here on long rides? I think it is okay, but how much is too much, right? So this is going to be dependent on the person, of course. And depending on your tolerances or what your coach likes to see or not like to see. But I think having some cardiac drift is okay. What does this all really mean? All the graphs and the heart rate, what does all that really mean if you're too tired to execute the prescribed training the following day, the following week, hit those hard intervals in the following days of training? Your perceived exertion is ultimately what we're using in the last miles of the race, when to make that final attack in the bike race or gravel race, mountain bike race, etc. So the thing I always say is we want to use all these other tools, metrics, and numbers that we have to educate our perceived exertion to make it that much more of a useful tool and weapon for us to use. How do we know our long ride is long enough or too long? One of the things I always tell people about long workouts, especially how to stay in zone 2, is these long workouts should feel hard simply from the duration, not because of any kind of intensity or terrain that you did. So, one of the things that I like to see from people is this: knowing that they did something. Their legs feel a little bit different, a little bit heavier than after their shorter zone 2 work, your short kind of consistent recovery stuff, maintenance type stuff that you might do during the week. The 45-minute run, the hour and a half bike ride. If you're one of my athletes, you'll see those numbers a lot. So we like to feel the next day. Maybe you can feel that long ride, long workout in your legs, but you could still execute something maybe long again, or maybe even hard. Now, if you did this, you're going to really start to accumulate fatigue, but you could get it done. This isn't to say that, and this isn't to say that this will happen all the time, is my point here. This is your bread and butter, most consistent long workout. You might do these longer workouts like I discussed before, but these are some of the parameters that you're going to want to see for that more frequent long workout. Some of these perceived exertion cues that you want to see. So the perceived exertion during should be manageable, especially with good nutrition. Depending on the weather conditions, if the weather is good, it's going to be more manageable to go longer, and making sure that our intensity is appropriate. Of course, I didn't get into what is zone 2 today. There's a lot of that out there as well now. But also afterwards. So you should not be destroyed after a long workout. You shouldn't be lying on the living room floor eating for the rest of the day. Again, if this happens from time to time, that's okay. Again, we're talking about your normal go-to, that this is my long workout that you're doing most of the time. Again, the next day, we can feel it, but we're not completely trashed. We could do a hard session or another long session. Now, if you did do that, the fatigue is going to start to accumulate. It's going to take you maybe longer to recover than that one long workout. But if you're not feeling that, or if these perceived exertion cues that I've just given you, you're kind of exceeding this on a normal basis, on a regular basis, a couple of things that might be hindering this, that might be pushing you into that area. One, the training going into it is too hard, or maybe you need like an easy day, a Friday easy day before your long workout. That's a common tool, structuring tool that people use. You're going too hard in that long workout, or maybe that workout is too long. And if you are going to push the length of it, maybe you need more recovery on the back end of it before you start your next training. So kind of a longer video. Hope you guys found this useful. Some good ways to figure out how long your long workout should be. Train safe. See everyone soon.